Welcome, Dr. Sarah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I'm thrilled to have met you through a mutual friend and learned about the work that you're doing in the mental health space. And I had to take this opportunity to invite you on because what I'm up to with Michelle's Conversations That Matter is I really want people to gain a better understanding of mental health, right? Remove the stigma, educate people, inspire people, have those kinds of conversations that might be a little uncomfortable or a little off the beaten path.
Yeah.
So that's really why I have the series, and I love being introduced to experts like you, a very dear friend who you had cared for. I won't mention his name. Just raved about the kind of care that he received under you, and I think in a world where people have trepidation or they become resigned or they give up about finding the right therapist, I love hearing stories of people who say, this person made a difference for me. I clicked with them. They really helped me.
Yeah.
So before we dive right in, could you take a moment and share with us who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Sure. All right. So who am I? So many hats. Today, I'll be the licensed clinical psychotherapist. And I am actually born and raised from Philadelphia, PA.
Nice.
Right now, I'm living in Cecil County, Maryland.
Okay.
And what is it that I do? So my focus is really on leadership, helping women, in particular, women leadership, and just helping to empower, helping women in particular to know how to take off the limits and go after their next level of greatness unapologetically. And I found that at times for many women, they take on roles and titles and positions and they're apologetic about it, or they feel like they're not good enough, or they're feeling guilty for being so great and powerful when they do have lives outside of that role, whether as a mom, as a wife, and everything else. But all in all, it's about us being able to take off the limits and go after our next. So that's what I do.
I love that. We need more female empowerers like you out there. I think it's great. I love it. I can see you get excited talking about empowering women. That's just phenomenal. Today, we're going to talk about this topic of how to thrive through the holidays and into 2021. I think people, as we're approaching Thanksgiving in a few weeks, I think people are feeling a lot of emotions around what do the holidays mean for me this year? Am I going to see my loved ones? Am I not going to see my loved ones? What traditions can we keep alive? But before we dive into that topic, tell us why you like what you do, or why you've chosen to do the work that you do.
All right. Well, I'll give you the funny version. So a girlfriend of mine in the 11th grade, we had decided that because we were great friends that we were going to go into psychology together, right? So I go to one college, she goes to another, and of course she meets some boy there who goes into, I guess he was into chemistry. So then she changed her major and decided to go ahead and be a chemist because of that boy. And I said, no, I'm going to stick with what I decided to do. I'm going to keep my end of the bargain, and I'm going to go ahead and be a psychologist. That's the funny version. If you were to ask her, she would say something totally different. But I want to say, since I was 14, I just knew that this was what I was called to do, because I've had so many people, adults at 14, coming to me and sharing their deep, darkest secrets. And they always felt that I was someone who can keep their secret, that I wouldn't judge them. So I just looked at it as, you know what, wow, people trust me for, their bearing their soul and the worst of things that they shared. They trusted me. So I looked at that as maybe it's something that I am to do. And today, that's what I love to do. I love empowering. I love to help people transform and to become who they are called and born to become. So it's an amazing thing just to see people change before my eyes and be part of that. Awesome.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it that it was born in you as a little girl.
Yeah.
I love hearing stories of people that like had this notion when they were little, and then like it sort of, you just kept, watering that, and look where you are right now. I think it's a beautiful thing. So these holidays that are coming up, you say that we actually have more control over the circumstances in this pandemic than we give ourselves credit for.
Right.
And that rings true to me because I have a resilience program that I deliver to different companies and to both the private and public sector. And one of the pieces in there is just that, is just getting people present to the control that they do have. Because if you listen to everything out there, you would think that you were completely paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want you to share with us why you believe, because from your lens as a doctor, like why and how can people reclaim the control in their life right about now when things in Jersey, we're about to go into, or we actually are in like another wave of this pandemic. So share with us.
Yeah. So just as human nature would have it, there's three things that we always, prior to the pandemic, that we hold true to ourselves without realizing. One is control, having control over the compounds that we are able to control. Also belongingness, connectedness, the fact that we would engage with one another, being relational, and then sense of purpose. The fact that when we feel like we're doing something and we're called to do something, when we discover that, when all of these are all taken away, like it seemed like it has happened with the pandemic, we run amok. Anxiety, depression, uncertainty, all of these factors come into play. And if we can look at how addictive social media can be, keeping our eyes glued to the camera or to the lens of our laptops at all times or our phones to see what is going on, rather we can reverse that and actually look at what we can control.
Mm-hmm.
We're too busy looking at what we cannot control. We're looking at what's going on in the news and in the media and saying, wow, I can't control this. I can't control that. Oh my gosh. And so when we focus on what we cannot control, it's like a spiral effect. It just spirals down to everything else that we can think of that we are not in control of. Rather, what we need to do is look at what we can control, what we are in control of. We can determine what we can watch. We can determine how much we are consuming. We can control how we're eating, how we're, thinking, how we're engaging. So I just found that during this whole time with the pandemic, it really has been an eye opener for all of us worldwide. And it just exacerbated what we feel or our fear, of loss of control. It's just a matter of us now getting back to thinking about what we can control that will help us out.
So like from a practical perspective, if someone is hearing what your message is, and I totally agree with you, like turn off the media, step away from your phone. Those are some practical things, but like, it's very easy to get sucked in, whether it's a loved one, a family member, or someone comes and has this, nugget of news, you get sucked in. So how do we have more discipline around really controlling our focus? Do you have any recommendations, like practices?
Well, as I have shared with my clients, so I do something called the DCBA method. Part of that is one of the letters to that is making a decision. Now, it may sound like it's not like a practical thing, like, okay, well, you need to, turn off the phone for 10 minutes and then you step away. Rather, you have to first decide that you're not going to let this control you. Because it's more, if we try to do practical things, but we didn't change the mindset about it, we go right back to it.
Right.
So I would rather help you and your audience out in regards to first deciding that this is something I'm not going to do. I'm going to control this. I'm not going to consume 10 hours a day of what I'm watching. Rather, I'm going to cut it down to 9. Those are some practical ways. You kind of have to give yourself grace and give yourself the courtesy of you now weaning away from and being able to now add more control to what you're doing. So if that means making the decision to no longer let this consume you, and then I would also encourage about writing things down. In the Bible it talks about writing things, writing the vision, make it plain. So in other words, write down, your vows. What are you now committing yourself to? D is decision. C is committing. So committing yourself to writing down as a goal. This is what I'm deciding to do. I'm not going to let this consume me. I'm going to step away. Only, I'm going to consume 9 hours of TV a day as opposed to 10. And then you kind of gauge it from there to see how you are doing. And you're doing that, you start to also celebrate yourself for the performance that you're doing. You celebrate on how you are making progress and now taking control or regaining control of the whole situation. So
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love the decision and the commitment. I like that a lot. And then you're not saying go cold turkey either. You're saying just sort of start to monitor what you're doing and reduce it. That could probably make a bigger difference than you even think.
Yep. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a matter of a couple of tweaks. This 5 minutes a day, less than what you would do normally can make a world of difference. And when you celebrate yourself, I find, Michelle, that a lot of times we don't even acknowledge or celebrate. We don't give ourselves the credit for the changes that we are making. That's how
Right.
we start to discipline by actually not just doing the work, but also acknowledging and celebrating yourself so that you can do more of that. That gives you more an advantage and a momentum to continue onward.
Right. So during this pandemic, we have a lot of people, I know a lot of people who follow me, who listen to me. A lot of people have either lost their job, they're having financial insecurity, they're struggling with their relationships. There's a lot of things that are taking its toll on American families and people and individuals. So how is it that we can have a positive mindset going into the holidays and really like have it be something that works? What are your recommendations? You are courageous enough to say that we can thrive and not merely survive. So tell us about that.
That's right. So you, again, now that you have learned how to apply, first, again, deciding and then committing, and then giving and extending yourself that grace and courtesy during this time. You find things that make you feel good. These sound so simple, but it's so, so effective when you actually apply it. A lot of times, Michelle and everyone, we usually look at something as simple as, oh, just decide and that's it. Just commit, that's it. Oh, just, cherish the moment and that's it. Find something good, that's it. But yeah, that is it. As opposed to trying to find something that is only going to last for so long. Instead of us trying to change the behavior, but not changing the mindset, you're going to go back to what you've done. And then that's just going to add more misery and frustration. Rather, let's go ahead and cut that out and start looking at what makes you feel good. How can you start looking at what you cherish during this time, as opposed to the doom and gloom. It's interesting how we're already manifesting what we're focusing on anyway.
Right.
So we're so afraid of doom and gloom, uncertainty, fear of the unknown. If we're focusing and putting our energy and our focus and our time on that, we're creating that. We're making more of it. Rather, let's shift our mindset and our focus about what is working, what is good, who, and I say this respectfully, who is here still? I've lost a couple of loved ones during COVID.
Yeah.
That were dear to my heart. And for me to continue to keep thinking about that, only it won't bring them back.
Right.
So there's a time and a space and a place to mourn and to grieve, to go through the grief cycle. It's okay. But then look at the fact that you are here. And what can you do to either commemorate their memory, or what can you do to still continue to thrive? To not let this COVID-19, to not let the pandemic beat you, but you actually beat it. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. You said something that really resonated with me around where you put your energy and your focus, right? Like, so I think people don't realize how powerful their thoughts are and how they can leverage their thoughts, or if allowed to be in autopilot mode, will go to the protect yourself sort of fight or flight instead of, who is it? Dr. Dyer, someone said like your brain is not wired to make you feel good. Your brain is wired to protect yourself.
Yep.
So you have to make a conscious effort of what you're choosing to focus your energy on, because energy goes where your attention flows, right?
Absolutely.
So I love what you're saying. I found myself, I'll tell one on myself because, hey, why not? I'm an open book. I was struggling the past few days. I've been really struggling. And I was like, starting to feel depressed again. And I was really like, just in a funk. And then like I did almost like this audit of where my mind has been going and the fear and the stress. And I've just been focusing on that. And it makes complete sense why I haven't felt great.
Right.
Because that's where my energy is going, instead of what am I creating? What is good? Absolutely. What am I grateful for? All those things. It's like complete shift. I got up this morning, I meditated. Like that was the first thing I had to do, was like sort of clear out all that noise in my brain, like wring it out. Exactly. And it helped.
Good deal. You know what, Michelle, don't have me talk about. I can be transparent if it's okay with you and your audience.
Sure. Yeah, please share.
So everyone, we were here 5 minutes before coming on, and I usually am on time for everything. And I didn't want to concern Michelle. I didn't show up at the time, and I only had 5 minutes to come on before we were going to talk to you. And she just wanted to make sure everything was okay. And I told her, I said, look, just like what Michelle has said, I had this whole time, this past couple of days of concern about finding a lump and finding this lump in my breast. It's interesting. I have been so happy go lucky this whole week before when the elections during this time of this recording was happening, and just being a support and being that light for everyone, because we just didn't know which way it was going.
Right.
And then the following week, now I get hit with a lump in my breast, and I have given myself that grace. So again, give yourselves that grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself that permission, that space. If you're not feeling okay, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
If you haven't learned anything from this year,
yeah,
you have to say to yourself, it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to always try to be okay for everything and everyone.
Yeah.
And Michelle, and as nice as she has been, she said, oh, we don't have to do this. Are you okay? I said, absolutely. Yes. We're going to show up powerfully. That was the word that Michelle gave me. We are here to help you to also show up powerfully. That things do happen.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of giving yourself that space and that grace to not be okay. And then you make a decision. Are you going to let that take you out or defeat you, or to have you to continue onward to be sad and doom and gloom and depressed and uncertain? And if that is you, if you find yourself that it may be harder to get out of that funk than maybe comparing yourself to others, it's okay. It's not about comparing. It's just about what works for you. We're just saying that you can decide to let it overtake you and overwhelm you, or you can decide to change it. And changing it in terms of, I can't take the lump out on my own, but what I can do is decide on shifting my mindset, like Michelle just said, and look at what I am grateful for. I'm still here, and I was able to show up today and have this conversation with you. And this makes me feel so good. I wasn't even thinking about this, about the lump. I'm more focused on just having this conversation and just giving a contribution towards this amazing platform. So you just have to make a decision and then start to shift your mindset from what is going on to what you want it to be. Feeling good, to being grateful.
Right.
It is just a matter of shifting, and it may not happen overnight in terms of you. It may take some practice.
Sure.
It's okay, because now you are regaining control of the situation and over your life.
I love this. Everything you're saying just resonates. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and telling everyone sort of what you're dealing with and how you're dealing with it. I think it's very real. People need to understand that, even the people who try to promote this goodness struggle, we're human beings, and we have our moments, like we're not without challenge. It's just where we choose to put our energy. Absolutely. One of the things I think is very concerning, but also it leaves me with some hope, is with this pandemic, people are experiencing mental health challenges. People are experiencing imbalances, and they may have never experienced it before. So one of the things that I try really hard to do is just to remind people is like you just said so beautifully, it's okay to not be okay. And it might be the first time that you're feeling that way. I think we have an opportunity now with more people starting to acknowledge how they're feeling, really normalizing the conversation and just having people talk about, it's been a rough week. Like, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. We're living through a crisis. We're living through a pandemic.
Yes.
And I guess so ultimately I do have a question. What is your advice? I feel like especially men, I think men are a different animal because they're not openly talking about their feelings and their emotions like us women. We have no problem, most of us, just sharing. But to the guy who's sitting out there thinking, I'm just going to power through. I'm fine. And I don't want to show weakness. I really want to reach them. I want them to get that, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
What are your thoughts? And yeah.
So one thought that comes to mind is, I find very powerful the support groups. And now that we are sheltered in place, or we're all on Zoom or other platforms, that we can connect and engage. I would say to the men that, hey, there are other men like you who are feeling the same way. And why not have the opportunity to reach out to, and this may be easier said than done, but
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
reaching out to other men that
Yeah.
you can confide with, even if it's one person. Hey, I always promote psychotherapy. It's
Yeah.
always great to talk to a licensed clinical professional, a mental health professional,
Yeah.
where if you feel like you cannot talk to anyone in your family because that you cannot be vulnerable, you're the strong one. It's always great. You have to talk to someone though.
Right.
Absolutely, you have to talk to a mental health professional so that you can now unpack and disengage from all that heaviness that you are carrying
Yeah.
for you and for everyone else. So either connect with other guys,
Yeah.
you can always Google. And even though I just find that nowadays, Michelle and everyone, that it seemingly are more support groups out there, or support groups in forms of whether working out, whether having happy hour online.
Yeah.
Everyone getting creative during this time.
Mhm.
And I have found that people are really thriving having had that, because again, talking about the things that we lost, the loss of control, the loss of connectedness. That was a major thing that really hit us, that we were not connected to one another, like
Right.
face to face. So perhaps you men either reach out and talk to a mental health professional, or you start opportunity of some type of support group, or you start Googling and seeing if there are any type of groups that are out there. It doesn't have to be mental health groups, but it can be something that is of interest to you. Working out, fitness, happy hours. You can actually find that and see
Yeah.
if you can connect with them.
Yeah, connection is so important. You said it earlier when we first started talking about that connection, and that it really, really is. It's the isolation to be scared of. I know for me, living alone, going through this pandemic by myself, I'm so grateful for my friends, because the isolation is when you go up into the vortex of your mind and you just sit there and you just swirl.
Right.
So when I have friends trying to pull me out of my apartment to go for a walk or to connect with them, I'm like, thank you, because that is what we need,
I had two clients. I had one. We're on the East Coast. He was on the West Coast, and he virtually, because of the fact that he was the breadwinner, he's the one that was taking care of the family. He did reach out to having a therapist. So he reached out to me, and I had encouraged him to, after some time and finding out what his interests have been.
Mhm.
One thing that he lost was that connection with his guys, working out with them.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You can go ahead online. Do you know that they're actually doing it online? He's like, I didn't know that. I
Mhm.
think there are a lot of fitness, working out
Yeah.
is online, that you can actually connect and engage with other guys,
Mhm.
or you can bring your guys along, and you all just get on a Zoom and work out. Like, you can
Yeah.
actually do that. And he was so happy to have done that. That made a world of difference for him. And the other lady, the one client that I had, and on the East Coast, she felt so isolated. She was going through a divorce, and she just felt so isolated. And I said, hey, why don't you just get with your girlfriends and have a virtual happy hour? She's like, oh my gosh, Dr. Langley, a virtual happy hour? And so they got together and they all thanked me. They were fighting over me. She was like, this is my therapist. You cannot have her. So it works when you work with.
Tell us, so are you doing your therapy online now?
Yes.
Is it all telemedicine? And
Yes.
how's that going? How are people receiving it?
Oh, great. I mean,
Yeah.
the ones that I've been working with, because it also depends on the dynamic. So you have individuals who may be in rural areas. So this is actually great for them, because it's been a challenge for those in rural areas where, your therapist is maybe 100 miles away.
Right.
But here, people have found to be, of course, initially when anything is something new, it can be interesting. But then after a while, you're in the privacy of your home.
Yeah.
You're able to just have that moment to decompress, to escape, and to have a therapist to talk to about all the issues that you're dealing with during the pandemic. And so the clients that I've been working with have really, really appreciate this, engage. As a matter of fact, it's not only by way of a camera, but by phone and also by text.
Oh, wow.
We literally can text one another and actually have a conversation, and has really have done wonders for the clients that I've served. So.
Do you think the pandemic will help us all be more comfortable with this whole idea of virtual therapy?
Perhaps, especially because now where we are today, having become used to it, of course, we would rather, and I mean, this is human nature, we want to connect. So of course, everyone would want to see each other face to face again.
Yeah.
However, where we are, and then at the time of this recording, where we're heading, with the concern about the flu season and how long this is going to prolong this, I think that people would may possibly get more comfortable and get much more engaged and invested into doing this type of platform.
What other tips do you have for people going into the holidays, like concerned about, the elderly relatives that they have, or seeing their family, or the anxiety? I think it's probably rooted in anxiety. I think what people are probably thinking. What advice do you have around that?
So depending upon the concern. So having talked to some clients just last week about this conversation, they were wondering so many of them are in that sandwich generation where they have their family, but then they also are taking care of their loved ones or their elderly parents. As a matter of fact, I did a caregiver workshop the other week on this, and it seems like the major concern is how are they going to attend to their elderly loved ones during this time?
Sure.
What are their elderly loved ones going to do? And wanting to make sure that they're safe, and also, that they're safe and healthy, so to not have anything happen to them. It is interesting because we have to first and foremost accept, going back to the DCBA method that I was talking about. The A is about acceptance. We have to accept that this is where we are today.
Right.
A lot of times I find that we are trying to go against it, like we're trying to challenge it, or we just don't want to accept for what it is. And we have to, so that we can adjust and do what is helpful and healthy for all of us.
Yeah.
So you have to consider concerning your loved ones, what is the best decision to make?
Yeah.
Seeing them and providing care for them, having them to be with you, or if it's not safe, if it's not safe, you have to consider and just accept for what things are, so that it makes it easier for you to start adjusting accordingly, to think of the long term, as opposed to, oh, well, I don't want to accept the terms. I just can't. And if something happens and then it hurts you, because of your decision.
Oh yeah. So I love the accepting piece, because in resisting the reality, it doesn't change anything.
Right. It doesn't change the reality. It doesn't. So
it's amazing. So I think that's great. And I also want to say that this is temporary. I know it feels like we've been in this pandemic forever and a day, but honestly, the pandemic can't last forever. It's not going to last forever. Right. So I think it definitely has altered how we live our lives and how we see life, but it's not going to be here forever. So I think if we can just exhale, accept it is what it is right now, and recognize that it's not going to be this way forever, then we can sort of move forward powerfully and not just be like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to, I'm just going to fold and just kind of, go away. But no, I mean, you can deal with this powerfully.
Right. I love what you just said, Michelle. One thing that I want to leave with your audience is the power of presence. The power of presence. A lot of times we're stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Where depression lies. We're so depressed a lot of times, especially around the holidays, and not talking about those who actually suffer with this medically. Seasonal affective disorder usually happens around this time frame. But just for the point, a lot of times when we're stuck in the past, we get depressed because we can't change the past. It has happened. It's a matter of, how do you learn? Or what did you learn from it? What did you learn from whatever has happened, so that going forward, you don't do that again, or it doesn't happen again, or you pivot. That was the buzzword for the years, is pivoting.
Pivot.
But then you have the future, because what I love what you said, and without saying it this way too, a lot of times we're like, okay, well, it is what it is now. Let's just focus on the future. But a lot of times we're predetermining, and the future never even came yet.
Yeah.
So now we're so anxious, anxiety-wise in the future, thinking about, oh my God, all this is going to happen, and I just don't know what's going to happen. And why do that to yourself?
Yeah.
Too much. But rather bring yourself back to present for what is today, and the fact that you are here today. and that you're able to do something differently to get different results. You can't change what happened yesterday, but you can decide today how you want tomorrow to be.
Right.
Right now, and being present. So I just think that if everyone can start focusing on what is today and being grateful for what is today and how you can make your day even greater as you're living this day, it will actually impact tomorrow, and you won't even have to concern about the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Small changes like that where you're getting present to your day, it's just like it builds a pattern, it builds a routine. It's the foundation of having a good mindset. I love it. So talk to us a little bit about, before I let you go, I'm going to let you go in a few minutes, but talk to us a little bit about the seasonal depression. I personally deal with seasonal depression. I know this about myself, and I dread the winter in New Jersey. Oh my gosh, everything's going to be gray and cold and snowy. And after my birthday's over, which is Christmas Eve, it's a downhill slope for me. So I deal with this, and I try really hard to do some things to help myself, but I know other people might be struggling with it or anticipating that compounded effect on top of the pandemic. What words of advice do you have around seasonal depression?
Well, it's interesting. I was going to ask you, what are some of the things that you have learned from it? Like, what things have you been doing for yourself?
Go to the Caribbean, but I can't get on a flight.
You can Zoom yourself there. You can actually put the screen or pictures if you're in the Caribbean. Right?
No, I think for me, it's definitely vitamin D, right? Vitamin D. It's exercise. I get the endorphin high from exercise. If I'm dealing with seasonal depression and I don't exercise, it is an ugly scenario. So I know for myself, I have to make sure I have a routine, I have an accountability buddy, and I'm running or I'm exercising. So those are some of the things that I do. But ultimately, I'm not even kidding when I say the Caribbean, because at least if I can get away in like January or February for just a few days, it doesn't have to be that long. I get that hit of the sun and the beautiful water, and I actually feel recharged. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, it's so light, so having and being around and kind of, getting some more light into your day. So, and again, these are homemade remedies. I mean, you can find things that can, you can get connected with lighting, going outside and just having that dose of light where you can. And also, as Michelle mentioned, in regards to exercising, accountability, being able to not do this on your own, having someone to hold you accountable and you can hold them accountable, and you're just connecting again. These are things you can control. So if you got to take supplements, like Michelle said, vitamin D and things like that, outside of seeing a therapist, once again, and having that conversation with them so that they come through. But those are things that you can actually do and again, celebrate yourself, acknowledge for the efforts that you are making on your own, because the more that you do that builds the momentum to continue onward.
Yeah, and it's also, the other thing I do is I do something that I love. Like, I'm a potter, so I throw clay. And so I know I get energy from doing that. And when I'm down, and my girlfriends will say to me, have you been throwing clay? Have you been exercising? Like, they'll all check me and be like, if you haven't been in your studio, there's a problem. So it's funny how it's like, if you find something that you love to do, you can throw yourself in it and it'll help.
Absolutely. We talked about that earlier. Finding something that you enjoy, that you love, something that makes you feel good. It's okay. Give yourself that permission, everyone, to feel good. Give yourself that permission that it is okay to feel good. So something that seems so simple, it's really those simple things that are the most effective, that's long lasting. So anything that you find that you enjoy, that's legal.
That's awesome. Awesome. So what are you up to? Tell us what you're up to and how people can contact you through the information that's on the ticker through your website. But tell us what you're up to. What are you doing these days, and how will we get involved? Tell us.
Sure. So just preparing for 2021 and looking at, of course, New Year's. We always have the New Year's resolutions. So I am working on a program called Success Without Apology. So really wanting to help, again, women leaders who are in these positions that they feel that they're comparing, they're not good enough, they're suffering with imposter syndrome, and they just feel like they cannot show up powerfully without being apologetic about it. This program will definitely be for you and helping you to unapologetically show up powerfully, and being able to embrace your success without apology. So I'm preparing for that in the new year to roll out.
Nice.
So anyone that's interested to know more, please go to my website, DrSarahReneeLangley.com. And outside of that, just preparing for the new year, or sorry, for the holidays.
Yeah.
Having some webinars that I'm going to do to teach more about how to thrive during the holidays and beyond, so that we can be in preparation for 2021 and beyond,
awesome.
Even in a pandemic. So yeah,
I love it. I love the work you're doing. I love the people that you're helping. I think it's great. You make it, you make talking to a therapist very comfortable. Like, I'm very comfortable going to my therapist because I adore him. But like, I think people have this idea that a therapist is very sterile, and you're so warm and you're so sweet and you're so kind. I want people to know that it's possible to find a therapist just like you if they need one. So
we are, later nowadays we are relatable.
Yeah.
Even being a doctor in it. But yes, we understand where everything is right now. And so I definitely would encourage for your audience, for anyone that's watching, to really consider it. It makes a world of difference. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Sarah. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate your time for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'll stay in touch with you.
Thank you. You take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.